Good morning. Sorry, but Caterina
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
We can't hear.
Now, Francesca. Good morning.
I can hear you.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Caterina has a problem with the Zoom platform, so I can start if you are agree with my presentation about our project, European project, Violent Dead in Child Shoes, that is an intervention with the perpetrator to end violence against women in intimate partner violence. So I share my screen. Can you see my my screen? Okay. This is a project, a European project coordinated by the Department of Humanities of University of Naples Federico II. The project Violent Dead in Child Shoes aims at supporting, Caterina is arriving, at supporting the program for perpetrators. Sorry, I don't see the screen, the whole screen.
We saw it, the screen.
Okay, perfect. By European Commission aim at supporting the program for perpetrators, offering an instrument to promote an aware self-assessment of violent behavior in domestic environment based on the recognition of the effect of violence on their children. The project addressed to men who feel their violent behavior but only partially recognize their responsibility and what to help in change their attitudes and behavior. In this case, the recruitment of men will be on voluntary decision. Another target is men who not recognize their violence against their partners, but in name of their children could be motivated to a possible treatment by using a self-assessment serious game proposed by VIDAX. The final target is men who have not entered into the criminal justice system, but who have been signaled by social service or victims of violence. Why Violent Dead in Child Shoes project was proposed? We start from the perpetrators' difficulty in adhering to treatment programs, letting use the research and the professional to focus attention on motivational factors that can support perpetrators and avoid the dropout. To face a low request and adherence to treatment of perpetrators and assure the success of the programs for domestic abuse perpetrators, we underline the importance of the intervention that increase motivation to change. The recent attention focus on parent accountability when exposing the children to abusive behavior. Little attention has paid to the role of fatherhood identity as a motivating factor to create insight into the need for behavior change. So the VDAX take into account the European guidelines and particularly stressed on the following assumption. Fatherhood has a core aspect in the treatment of perpetrators. Violence is a choice, and seeing the impact of the consequence of violent behavior on partner and children encourages empathy, responsibility, and motivation to the change. What is the innovative element of our project? The opportunity to benefit from a virtual environment made possible by advanced technology such as Kinect and other specific technologies to get in direct contact with the child's psychological condition exposed to domestic violence. So our Sidious game is an advanced frontier. Sidious game, and in our also in our case, is an advanced frontier that reproduces the emotion of human life in a certain circumstance to create virtual opportunity that can induce the identification processes and at the same time lend to empowering transformative solution. So, VDAX emotional and behavior assessment program aims at offering an opportunity to perpetrators to deal with their unaware hidden feelings and cognition related to their partner, observe themselves through the child eyes in concrete multiple exemplars scenarios that represent the common antecedent that induced them to adopt violent behavior. To experience the consequence of the violent behavior's impact on sensation, emotion, and thoughts of their child, and to decide to adopt alternative behavior during the game and to go through the impact of these alternative scenarios on their child. In this decision, the perpetrators will be assisted and specialized professionals who encourage the experience of alternative behavior to the violence. So we can see that VDAX Sidious game facilitate the perpetrator's recognition of the antecedent and the consequence of their violent behavior. In fact, the perpetrator in child's shoes can experiment identification with their children, with the feelings and the cognition of their children, and this is the opportunity to discriminate between appropriate and inappropriate his behavior in a domestic context. Thank you for the attention, and now I want to launch a video that we created with a famous online newspaper fan page in Italian context that aims to disseminate our product of the project, the Sidious game, we apologize because the serious game is in Italian version, but I and Caterina can explain the video that represent the moment of the experimentation, and we can see how 4 men of different age experiment the serious game and tell their emotion and thoughts after the experimentation. We can see we are very happy to share with us our product that in the future, in the next day, we publish also in English version in our website. So Caterina, I launch the video, and if you want, you can explain what happened and what represent. No, sorry. No. Caterina, you have you a video now? No, sorry. No. Caterina?
Perché il telefono è sempre occupato?
Mi sono un idiota irascibile.
Come al solito, manco la cena hai preparato.
Vabbè, lui sta esagerando un po'.
È tutta colpa vostra! Perché nessuno mi sente? Basta!
Senso di pesantezza allo stomaco, quasi nausea.
Realtà virtuale, ma non è la mia realtà, insomma.
È turbato, abbastanza turbato.
È una cosa da far riflettere. E molte volte capita che ci sono sempre figli che ascoltano.
Now we can see these 4 men that experiment the serious game. This is a scenario of a serious game, and this is one partner of our project, Antonella Bozza-Otra, and is a director of a service for perpetrator, and where we experiment our serious game. This is a scenario. What is the scenario of serious game? A simple moment of everyday life of a family. A man, a dad in this case, enter in his home, but doesn't find his case, and this is emotive to become became furious. And then he entered in his home, and he begins to discuss with with his wife and his child, her in other room. In fact, we can see now. Sorry, but we have a problem with the YouTube. But the child hears the discussion between his parents, and he cries. In this moment, the man that experiments the serious game change the perspective and moves from his position to the position of his children, and he can see what happened when his child, his son, see and listen and hear the discussion between his parents. So this is our product, and so if you have a question, I'm here, and also Caterina, I don't know if she can talk or she have problems with the audio.
Did you listen me?
Yeah, now we can see. We can see.
You see me, you listen me?
Yeah.
Okay. I am not see. You see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I have problem in sharing my screen. Today is not a good day for my connection, but first of all, I want to say that I'm very, very excited about taking part in this big conference. And I think that the Melbourne team is really fantastic in the way you are providing such a huge and challenging event. Against pandemia, against coronavirus, you are giving something really special to connect all of us. And I'm really excited, because taking connected 300 people all around the world and with all the time section, it's really great. I would be the organizer of the next conference in Italy. And I think I have to learn very much from you, because you are really great, even because people are not very skilled as me in going on and being part of the activity. Going back to the section, probably after this presentation of Imma, there are some comments, or someone have something to say. I would give the opportunity to talk and to say if someone want to say something. and then I go on. Because I saw someone saying very interesting. I saw some comment, so probably there is someone who want to say something.
Sorry, Wafa, you want to go?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for that presentation. That was amazing, Emma. I'm just wondering, is the video available in English, or even in Italian with English translation?
The video would be with English undertitle, but it will be in 1 month with the English undertitle. And if you write an email to us, we will send you the connection, or we send the connection. Then we will give all the connection to the project, and you can enter and receive it. Okay, then some other comments, or I go on. This section in our vision is a session that is taught to be to locate the fighting against violence in ecological perspective. And this is the reason, because we are going to present at the beginning a general model of ecological perspective in fighting gender violence. And then we present this project using video games and multimedia. And so our idea is to have a multidimensional perspective to fight gender and sexual violence in every situation, but always in a community psychology perspective of ecological. That means ecological means that we are going to take into account cultural, social, organizational, and individual. But that is not enough. We are going also to wish to connect intervention for men, intervention for women, intervention for the social service system, and intervention for kids. I had to change the computer, and so my slides were on my computer. I couldn't move it on the mobile, but I send it to Emma. Emma, if you show my slide, you can see it, and you can have it, and you can collect it, or then we can send it to the page. Probably some can help me in send it, and so they will be part of the session. Now we have time just to 11, so I will be very, very brief, just 2 words, and giving the flow to Francesca Esposito, because Francesca, in an ecological perspective, is dealing on violence against women, sexual violence against women when they are migrant women. So another topic, but always in this ecological perspective. My slide on ecological perspective are now on the screen of Emma, and I have a schema where you can see how all the individual, relational, cultural, and intervention are connected. And our hope for the future is being able also to start to create mediation opportunities when the violence is not still there. At the beginning, before violence, when violence is there, we have to go with the Istanbul Convention and go on with the court and defining the difference between victim and perpetrators. But when you have signs of something that is not working, you can start try to find out new way to negotiate, like it happened in many countries after very strong and difficult country fight. Imma, se vai avanti allo schema, this is the schema, you will have it, there is no time to explain it. This is the schema of how individual, organizational, and cultural interact. Go on, Imma. This one is how measure can be done at all levels. And then with the next slide, we make a summary of all our publications that you can find in the website on this VIDAX project and on all our work on violence. And sorry for my technical problem in participating, but I'm happy I was able to join. And you go on, Imma. This is the book that is arriving on this VIDAX project. These are all our publications. You can keep it if you are interested in violence. And I quickly give the floor to Francesca Esposito for this ecological perspective in community psychology, ecological perspective on the topic of sexual violence against women migrants. So thanks. Francesca.
Yeah, thank you, Caterina. So I will share my screen. Okay. Are you able to see it? Okay. So yeah, as Caterina was saying, my work is on migration, and particularly migrant women who are affected by border control. As you all know, in recent years, new migration patterns have emerged in Europe and all over the world, and border control operations have become more complex and broader, resulting in a considerable number of people with migration background who are detained under immigration powers, which means for reasons related only to their immigration status. So the starting point for my research is the acknowledgement that in the face of such a scenario, little empirical research exists in community psychology and in academia more broadly on the lived experiences of people affected by border control and particularly by immigration detention. This is primarily due to the difficulties in gaining research access to these sites. So this knowledge becomes even scantier when it comes to experiences of women. And this is why some scholars have described the women in immigration detention as a silenced custodial population. So based on this evidence, the main purpose of my research is to analyze the role of gender in immigration detention by closely looking at the lived experiences of detained migrant women in light of a feminist intersectional framework of analysis. In doing so, I address two main questions. First, how do women make sense of their experiences of detention, and how do they understand their own challenges and needs? And second, how do immigration detention centers and those working inside them conceptualize women, and with what effect on them? So my research looks in particular at three national detention contexts: the UK, Italy, and Portugal. And all these countries share similarities, especially in the abidance to international and European convention and directives. But there are also important differences that allow comparisons. For instance, in each country, different provisions exist for vulnerable groups in detention, including women survivors of gender violence. And I've prepared just, a few photographs to show you this, some of the sites where I'm conducting my work. So this is the Ponte Galerio Detention Center in Rome. And this is a detention centers where women and men are held, are confined. You can see the prison-like aspects of this site. And these are some photographs of the living unit, the women's living unit, and the poor living conditions where people are experiencing there. This is the Yarswood Immigration Removal Center in Bedford, UK, and this picture has been taken during the protests outside the center. So you can see here some activists protesting to close detention center and this practice. And this is the Sant Antonio housing unit in Porto, Portugal. So these are, are some pictures, some photographs of the sites where I'm doing my work. The purpose of my study is not simply to examine how immigration detention affects women differently from men, therefore adding women and steering, but it's rather about making gender visible. So this means, in my view, to grasp how gender, among other categories like sexuality, race, nationality, influences the way in which women and men enter into and experience confinement, as well as how gender norms are enacted, reinforced through detention policies and practices. So many of the women I meet in detention in the 3 countries I'm working on are asylum seekers. For example, in the UK, according to the data provided by the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford, more than half, like 58% of the people entering immigration detention in 2019 have claimed asylum at some stage during the immigration process, including while in detention. Other women I meet in these sites have overstayed their visa or were unable to renew them and renew their residence permits. Some women also come from prison institutions where they have often been confined for minor crimes. In Italy, where citizenship law is mainly based on the jus sanguinis, which is the right of blood, it is also very common to meet women who arrive to Italy at a very early age or who are even born in Italy. This is particularly common in the case of Roma women. So notwithstanding their different backgrounds and pathways to detention, when I speak with women in detention, the majority of them report experiences of gendered violence, including sexual, domestic, and/or reproductive violence suffered in the countries of origin, transit, and often destination too. However,
Francesca, in 10 minutes, our section will be closed. So probably you should go quicker. Otherwise, you have not the time to arrive to the final point.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try to wrap up.
We can run a little bit over time, so don't.
Yes, okay. Until what time, just to have an idea?
It should be fine, as long as people are happy to stay and listen, that'll be fine.
Okay. So, however, their experiences are rarely acknowledged as a grant from protections. So in the countries of origin, women's experiences often range from restrictions on their liberty and self-determination related to gendered norm and prescriptions, to forced marriages, domestic violence, and also rape. And so to escape this situation and change their lives for the better, women often embark on difficult journeys to European destinations, during which they are also exposed to multiple forms of abuse. For example, the women traveling to countries like Italy or Greece report extensive experiences of sexual violence, even sometimes at the hands of law enforcement. So overall, women on the move face a lot of visible and invisible forms of patriarchal violence, and for these reasons, they deserve particular care upon arrival. However, unfortunately, things don't usually go in this way, and women's problems are not acknowledged and don't even end upon arrival. So, as many women have revealed in their conversations with me, the precarious life they sought to escape through migration often persisted in destination countries. So sexism, violence, exploitation, although materialized through different forms, continued in Italy or in Portugal and in the UK. And also the illegalization these women suffered enhanced the risk of entering abusive and exploitive relationships, both intimately and at work. And this is what we have been what we found in our research with migrant women detained in Portugal, for example. But very rarely, however, these abuses are reported to state authorities, and this evidence explains why so many women in detention, when they find a woman professional, either a trained community psychologist, a researcher, or an anti-violence advocate, disclose these experiences of gender violence. Also, in the 3 countries, there is a lack of mechanisms to identify and address the needs of women survivors of gender violence, and their rights are often not guaranteed. So, for example, women survivors of gender violence, including trafficking, are often regarded as merely illegal migrants, and as such, they are detained in order to be deported back to their countries of origins. So, for example, in the UK, I went to do my field work in Combrook and Yarswood, and I managed to interview 20 women, and the majority of them reported experiences of rape, domestic violence, or other forms of gender-based violence. But they all told me that they found it hard to disclose these experiences to their immigration caseworkers. Also because they usually didn't have expertise on gender violence. Also, they told me that the translation they had for women who did not have a good command of English usually relied on telephone services, and this made things harder for them because they felt the relationship being less empathetic, and also it prevented the full and correct details of a women's stories from being heard and assessed properly. So overall, the majority of the women I met felt that their experience of victimization were not adequately addressed in detention. And beyond this, many women highlighted how the experience of detention itself reactivated the gendered traumas they suffered in the past, thus compounding their health-related problems. So some women I recently interviewed who have been detained in Yarswood, IRC, and then released in the community also trace the similarity between the mechanisms at play in gender violence and the ones used in detention. For instance, they mentioned the lack of control they felt in Yarswood about everyday macro decisions regarding their lives, such as the choice of what to eat and when, and the constant sense of uncertainty and fear that something bad could happen. These feelings reminded them their experiences of domestic abuse, when they felt to have no control over their everyday life and a sense of helplessness in the face of their partner's violence. A woman also told me how the sound of the staff step in the corridors at night and the jingle of the keys they brought with them reminded her of when her abusive partner used to lock her up in a room for days. Notably, in Yarswood, women are locked up at night in their rooms too. So I think I will hand my presentation here with this sentence shared by an excerpt by experience and a person who survived detention who told me during an activist meeting, worst of all, you can leave the detention, but the detention never leaves you, because even out there, one comes across many other triggers. So I want to finish by saying, concluding by saying and reminding the importance of critical feminist research in these sites. And I think that I mean, there is a lot of need to produce new knowledge and advocate for meaningful changes in this field. So I'm grateful to Caterina for organizing this roundtable, and I hope more events like this will come. And I think feminist informed research is based above all on solidarity. So it means using research to witness and support the struggle of the women who are affected by border control, who are often portrayed in mainstream debates as victims, but they are above all survivors, and they try and they struggle to resist and survive and challenge border violence on an everyday basis. And so here are some examples of their resistance in detention. So some paintings on the walls of the living rooms. This is a painting where is written libertà, which means freedom in Italian. And also this photograph on Nigerian women celebrating a religion.
I think that something is gone. Are we still here? But we lose Francesca.
I think we lost Francesca.
Yes, we lost Francesca. But anyway, she was finishing and concluding. If someone want to say something, or I want to ask, how can we, how can I add the slides to the session, so that if someone want to have it later, can have the.
I've asked Emma to send me yours, and I can get Francesca's as well, and we can add them. I should also remind people that they can connect through the conference app to chat with people who are there, but also through our Slack channel. And I can put the link in the chat room. So if anyone wants to ask any other questions, and if you guys want to join, you can continue the conversation for those people.
Yes, then thanks to everybody. And this is the first day of the conference. We are trying to improve our participant skills, because the organizer skills are great. And then even supporting and giving a live person sharing in us in our in this technological new world. But many thanks. We are receiving some messages. Thanks for such a good presentation. So people are appreciated what we are presenting, and so probably technological unskilled were not too heavy. And thanks to everybody. And we will call Francesca and say to her that if she send her slide to you, we will. Thanks from Malawi, thanks from Renzo Vittorino, thanks from many people that are writing their agreement to the section. And may I have a question to Sam? How it's going all the conference in this this big international effort?
So far, so good. We have an amazing events team who are doing incredible things and making us look very good.
Can I send you as organizer a request from the European Banks of Ideas? Can I send it to you again so you can put it on the on the page, because it would be a good form to give a continuity and even a connection between this conference and the next one that we are going to chair in 2 years in Italy.
Sure.
So bye to everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye. Also bye from Francesca. Bye.
Okay. Ciao.
Bye.